Good evening, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, I thought that I would do a little video on this. They're going to be talking about Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers. And overall, they're going to be discussing who the better quarterback is and overall what it would mean if one of the two overall were able to win in the NFC Championship game. I can't remember if it's this Saturday, Sunday. I can't remember. But either way, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, for the first time ever, are going to face off in a playoff game. Because, of course, Tom Brady, for pretty much his whole entire career besides this year, actually not pretty much, his whole entire career besides this year, has been on the New England Patriots and has been in the AFC. Aaron Rodgers' whole career has been on the Green Bay Packers and in the NFC. Now that Tom Brady is in the NFC, overall, and his Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to get past the Washington, now called the Washington football team, but the Washington Redskins, if you want to call them that, and was also able to get past the New Orleans Saints. Now he's going to face Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship at Lambeau Field. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this turns out. Anyways, Skip and Shannon overall are going to be discussing who the greater quarterback is and overall what it would mean if one of these two were to win, or overall whoever is going to win, So let's just see overall what they have to say.
Skip has repeatedly said Brady is the GOAT, but Shannon, you've said several times on the show that Aaron is actually the better quarterback. So how much would a head-to-head playoff win against TB12 help Rodgers' GOAT case?
Skip, it would help immensely. You're talking about, and also...
I don't think that it would help immensely at all. Let's keep in mind, and Brady does deserve credit for getting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to where they're at. Jameis Winston, of course, the prior quarterback to Tom Brady, he didn't lead them to anything, even under Bruce Arians. Tom Brady was able to come in there, and because of his expertise, because of his experience, and because of his way better decision-making, he was able to lead that team overall to, I believe, a record of 11-5 and lead them to the playoffs. So this playoff game is going to have a little bit of weight. But let's also keep in mind, Tom Brady is 40-something years old. This is not a Tom Brady even from a couple of years ago. It is what it is. That being said, Aaron Rodgers does deserve credit if he wins this playoff game. But when it comes down to the overall, do I think that it'll make his GOAT case that much greater if he beats Tom Brady? No. What Aaron Rodgers is going to have to do is that he's going to have to win the Super Bowl this year if he even wants to be considered a top 5 quarterback of all time. Now, there are many people that consider Aaron Rodgers a top 5 quarterback of all time. In my opinion, he cannot be counted in the top 5. It is what it is. Because you have to win. You have to win consistently. You do have to count the postseason. You have to overall take a look and see how big they come up in the postseason. And there are certain times, multiple times, where I've seen Aaron Rodgers not come up nearly as big as a Tom Brady has. So even if Aaron Rodgers overall does beat Tom Brady in this playoff game, I don't think it's really going to matter because, at least when it comes to the quote-unquote GOAT conversation, because I don't think Aaron Rodgers is anywhere near the GOAT conversation anyway. It is what it is. Tom Brady has just accomplished way too much in his career. Unless Aaron Rodgers were to win 2 or 3 more championships, Super Bowls, that is, after he was able to win the Super Bowl this year, I just don't see Aaron Rodgers ever being in that conversation. And no offense against Aaron Rodgers and, his fan base cult. As we all know about the Aaron Rodgers fan base, they're one of the biggest, most delusional fan bases out there. No offense against Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers might be the most overrated quarterback that I've ever seen play. And a certain amount of people overall may not agree with that. I'm not talking about from a talent perspective. I'm not talking about from an ability perspective when you talk about the skill set and his ability to scramble and make good decisions. I'm talking about overall his accomplishments. Aaron Rodgers is a greatly accomplished quarterback, but there's a reason why he only has 1 Super Bowl appearance. Aaron Rodgers overall is not nearly as impactful as many people overall try to make him out to be. It is what it is, and that's just the bottom line. People can like that, they can not like that. I really don't give a shit. It is what it is. But anyway.
we all believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to win the regular season MVP. So that would be 3 Super Bowl. That would be 3 regular season MVPs. And then when you combine that, if he were to get to and win the Super Bowl, that would be a very, very small room in which you have a player with 3 regular season MVPs and at least 2 Super Bowl MVPs. That would be Peyton Manning has 5 and 2. That would be Tom Brady that has 6 and 3. So Aaron Rodgers would also be in that room. And so, Skip, that's a very small room, because when you start trying to decide GOAT, okay, how many people are in the room to start? And as we move to the right, Skip, how many do we start dropping off as we move those guys? And so this would mean a lot. And to do it and to get this game against Tom Brady, Skip, normally we don't see matchups like this. What made Peyton and Brady's matchup so special, Skip, the other one was trying to keep the other from the Super Bowl. So we got an opportunity to see them play on a regular occurrence. Normally, we wouldn't have an opportunity to see this unless it was in the Super Bowl. So now we get an opportunity to see Brady Manning, but it's Brady Rodgers, because somebody's going to keep the other from reaching their ultimate destination. And to win 3 regular...
This game, means more to Aaron Rodgers' legacy than it does to Tom Brady. Tom Brady, in my opinion, is the greatest quarterback of all time. Even if you're going to argue that he's not the most talented of all time, you also have to count accomplishments. You also have to count postseason success. And let me bring up basketball overall just for a comparison. Many people overall would claim that Anthony Davis is more talented than Giannis Antetokounmpo or Stephen Curry or James Harden. But you cannot actually put Anthony Davis above any of those players in the rankings. Because when you take a look at what Anthony Davis was able to do when he led a team compared to what Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry, and James Harden were able to do when they led a team, it's not even close. Anthony Davis was able to, make the playoffs twice, and overall, in a several-year career with the Pelicans. I mean, first of all, that's embarrassing. And secondly, the furthest you've ever gone is the second round of the playoffs. Like, you're talking about Steph Curry, that's a 3-time NBA champion, a 2-time MVP. You're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's a 2-time MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year, and led his team to the Eastern Conference Finals. And James Harden, who's an MVP, and led his team to multiple Western Conference Finals appearances. You have to count postseason success. You have to count where that player takes them, okay? It can't just be overall, well, take a look at their statistics. It has to be overall where they take that team in the postseason, because the pressure is always on in the playoffs. It's always on in the playoffs. It's always on in the postseason. And how they do in the postseason really reveals to us how great of a player they actually are. All right? That's why Peyton Manning is not the greatest quarterback of all time and is also not the second greatest quarterback of all time. The second greatest quarterback of all time, in my opinion, is Joe Montana. All right? It is what it is.
Season MVPs and multiple Super Bowls, Skip. Like I said, it's a very, very short list. And that's the knock against Rodgers. Yeah, he's great. The numbers you look at, less than 100 interceptions with more than 400 touchdown passes. So you're like, wow, look at this. And the statistics is blow you away. The quarterback rating blows you away. But he only has 1 Super Bowl. So, Shannon, well, how great is he?
Exactly. And he only has, it's not even the fact that he only has 1 Super Bowl. He has 1 Super Bowl appearance. I know a certain amount of people overall say that, well, Aaron Rodgers hasn't had the teams. Well, according to what I've been hearing, Aaron Rodgers is so much more impactful than everybody else that he can just take an average offense and an average defense, and as long as he has an average defense, he can take them to the Super Bowl. It's the same bullshit I hear with LeBron James every single season. Oh, LeBron James can take a trash team overall and take them to the NBA Finals. Well, we know that's not true, because a couple of seasons ago, we saw what happened with that first season with the LA Lakers. And, of course, overall, people try to blame that on the injury. Let's keep in mind, LeBron James played 50-something games, all right, that season. And he was losing to teams like the New Orleans Pelicans, who no longer even had Anthony Davis, or Anthony Davis was not even playing. So let's not front, all right? Let's not, let's not be disingenuous. It is what it is, all right? Anyway, it's the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has not always had these super bad defenses or these super bad offenses. The truth is about Aaron Rodgers is that if he was anywhere near as impactful as many people overall tried to make him out to be, then there would have been at least 1 NFC championship game in Lambeau Field. Like, that has not even happened until this season. This game means more for Aaron Rodgers' legacy than it does Tom Brady's legacy. Tom Brady's legacy is already set. Tom Brady has appeared in 10 Super Bowls, I believe, and overall, or is it 10 or 9? It might be 9. Yeah, I think it's 9. I think he went to 9 Super Bowls. Anyways, bottom line is this. Tom Brady has appeared in at least 9 Super Bowls. He's won 6 of them. He's won 3 MVPs. He's won a certain amount of Pro Bowl appearances. Tom Brady's legacy is already set. And Aaron Rodgers' legacy is already set as a first ballot Hall of Famer and most likely a top 10 quarterback of all time. But when it comes down to the overall, if he wants a debate in that top 5, he has to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't care who it's against. He has enough talent so where if he is a top 5 quarterback of all time, he wins the Super Bowl this year. And that's the bottom line. If he were to lose against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this weekend, that is going to affect his legacy to a certain degree. All right? Because there's really no reason why the Green Bay Packers should get upset against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this weekend. But anyway.
And I think that's the thing that when we look at great players, how many championships do they coincide with it? And plus, Skip, we haven't had a Super Bowl winning. Write this down. Hold on. The last regular season MVP to win the Super Bowl in the same season, Kurt Warner, 1999. Skip, that's a long, long time, ain't it? So, if he could cap this with a MVP season with a Super Bowl, and we believe, Skip, if they win the Packers win the Super Bowl, he'll be the MVP. It will be a historic season. It'll be his greatest season. 48 and 5 touchdown passes, cap that off. So, Skip, it would go a long, long way. He would have had to do it against Brady. He couldn't do it against Breeze because it wouldn't have. Breeze is great.
The main matchup Aaron Rodgers needs to worry about this season. Of course, he needs to worry about Tom Brady first and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the main matchup overall that's going to create fireworks is Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes. That's his main adversary that he needs to worry about right now. Because to be quite honest with you, if Patrick Mahomes keeps going on the streak that he's going to surpass Aaron Rodgers not too far away from now. So it is what it is.
But it wouldn't. I don't believe it would have the same significance as doing against Tom Brady.
So, let me nail this down before I launch on it. You are leaning towards saying if Aaron Rodgers beats Tom Brady head-to-head, he will have a very strong case that he is the GOAT.
I believe he's a better quarterback. Now, GOAT status is going to probably take him another Super Bowl. But I believe he's a better quarterback. See, Skip, I believe 2 things are operating here. Brady is the more accomplished. I believe Rodgers is a better player. That's just me.
Oh, sorry about that.
So how was... But I believe he's a better quarterback. See, Skip, I believe 2 things are operating here. Brady is the more accomplished. I believe...
Well, if he's the more accomplished, guess what? That means that he's the greater quarterback. Now, there's a different connotation between better and greater. If you want to say that Aaron Rodgers is more talented than Tom Brady, or that overall that he has more ability than Tom Brady, in certain areas, then I don't have a problem with that. But there's just no argument for Aaron Rodgers ever, unless he were to win at least 4 Super Bowls, ever being in the same conversation as Tom Brady in terms of greatness. That's why I say Aaron Rodgers has been the most overrated quarterback probably in the history of the league. It is what it is.
Rodgers is a better player.
Because for him overall to be compared to a Peyton Manning, who's been to 4 Super Bowls and has won 2 of them, for him to be compared overall to a Tom Brady that has been to 9 Super Bowls and won 6 of them and won the same amount of MVPs, it's not even close.
That's just me.
And many people love to shit on Joe Montana these days now too. Joe Montana is a greater quarterback than Aaron Rodgers by a long shot. And a lot of people overall may not like that. You know who else Joe Montana was greater than? Peyton Manning. Joe Montana is greater than every other quarterback in NFL history besides maybe Tom Brady. That's about it.
Okay, this is just me. I would like to apologize publicly to Tom Brady for doing this topic on the show. I don't know who comes up with these questions. I'm embarrassed. I'm humiliated for the sake of our show that we're having to do this.
No.
But again, You have made this case. You have leaned
Yes.
toward this case
Yeah,
for the 4 years I've worked with
Yeah,
you.
we're going to be 5 in September.
We're coming up on 5
Yeah.
years. And all I know is I just wish that this is going to be an epic battle. And I wish our network Fox would promote this, would tease this as GOAT versus phony GOAT.
No, it didn't come into that.
I agree, Skip. It's a lot like the Michael Jordan, LeBron James conversation, except it's not even as close as that. Because at least LeBron James is the best. He's probably the best player ever at his position. Some would argue Larry Bird, but now with LeBron James winning 4, I would say LeBron James. But when it comes down to the overall, Michael Jordan, 6 championships. At least LeBron James has 4. I'm not saying that LeBron James is the greatest of all time. I don't think that there's much of a debate for that, even though the LeBron James fans really think that they have a case. But with Aaron Rodgers, man, I mean, damn, I don't see any case whatsoever. I mean, I understand the statistics are somewhat there when it comes down to the overall, but you got to have more than just one Super Bowl appearance. Once again, if Aaron Rodgers is supposed to be anywhere near on the same level of impact as some of these other quarterbacks, or overall, if he's supposed to be so much greater than these other quarterbacks in terms of impact, why does he have the same amount of Super Bowl appearances as a Joe Flacco? Why does Russell Wilson and Eli Manning have more Super Bowl appearances than him? That's my question now. Is that me saying that those quarterbacks are greater? No. But Aaron Rodgers, his impact has been so overrated for a certain amount of times. It is what it is.
Aaron Rodgers is even a phonier GOAT than LeBron is to Jordan.
I agree, Skip.
I can at least sort of stomach your LeBron case because at least he has won 4 championships, lost 6, but he's won 4.
Right.
Aaron's played in 1 championship game in his life, and it was 10 years ago, and he did win.
And Aaron Rodgers overall, I don't even think he's ever had an NFC championship game in Lambeau. It's like, once again, I've never understood, comparing him to a Tom Brady or a Payne. I've never understood of having Aaron Rodgers in the top 5. Never. To me, you can never have him in the top 5, especially if you don't win the Super Bowl this year, man. Now, if he wins the Super Bowl this year, then all of a sudden you can say he's debatably top 5. But right now, Tom Brady is ahead of him. Joe Montana is ahead of him. Peyton Manning is ahead of him. John Elway is ahead of him. Johnny Unitas is ahead of him. Roger Staubach is ahead of him. In my opinion, Brett Favre would be ahead of him. And maybe even a couple of other quarterbacks. Like, this dude is on the same level as a Steve Young, a Dan Marino, and Drew Brees is probably also in that conversation as well. That's where Aaron Rodgers is. All right? Not on this level of a Tom Brady. That's ridiculous. Tom Brady is just way too accomplished for that.
Give you that.
Now, of course, many people overall love to say, well, what if Tom Brady overall didn't have Bill Belichick? What if Aaron Rodgers had Bill Belichick? I'm sure he'd be the one with 6 Super Bowls right now, all this other stuff. Listen, that's great, but all that is, what ifs. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. That's all that is. I don't live in what if land. I don't live in that. I live overall in what is, not what if. It is what it is. There's certain circumstances where I think we have to take a look at that. But when it comes down to the overall, we can't do that because all of a sudden we can allege certain players are above other players that are nowhere near as accomplished. Like, I can sit here and then allege and say, well, you know what? Phillip Rivers overall was great statistically in his career. I think that he would have been greater than Aaron Rodgers, but he didn't even have the help of an Aaron Rodgers. He never had the number 2 defense in the league on his team. Had he had the number 2 defense on his team, he would have won just as many Super Bowls as Aaron Rodgers. That's why we can't do something like that. Because I can sit here and allege it all the living long damn day, but when we take a look at the accomplishments, it's not close. So it is what it is.
So he's 1-0.
About to play another one in 2 weeks.
Okay, well, he may well do that because he is favored to win.
We'll see, Shannon. I'm predicting the Packers to win as well, but he needs to win that game.
Up on his frozen tundra. This has been his lifelong career dream. I want 1 championship game at Lambeau Field.
Yeah.
And all Devontae talks about, every time he opens his mouth, he's talking about how the visiting team will not be able to open their mouths in the cold.
And Aaron Rodgers has no excuse if he loses this year, no matter what round it'd be in. You have debatably the best wide receiver in the league right now in Davante Adams, at least overall. For this season, you certainly, let's just say overall you don't count him as the best receiver when Julio Jones is healthy, because I don't think Davante Adams is on the same level as Julio Jones either, at least in most categories. He's better in the end zone than Julio is, I guess, if you wanted to say that, but when it comes down to it, every other category, Julio beats him in. But when it comes down to the overall, you can say Davante Adams was at least the number one receiver of this season. He has decent run game. He's always had a very good offensive line. And he does not have a bad defense. Aaron needs to win it.
Because it's so cold you can't even speak to each other.
Right.
Okay, so you got what you wanted. They are favored by around 4-ish points. Mm-hmm. I give you that. They should win this game. But at this moment, as we speak, I'm sorry, it is laughable and insulting to Tom Brady that we're even talking about this, because think about what this man has just achieved. You could argue it's the greatest achievement of his GOAT career. All he did was get pushed out the back door in New England by the quote-unquote GOAT coach. That's way overrated, who just got exposed, Bill Belichick. And he said...
Well, Bill Belichick overall is a great coach. But overall, what I will say is this, is that his season certainly was subpar. He was definitely expected to do more. So that is proof right there that Tom Brady also was a big part of their success. Do I believe that Tom Brady did somewhat benefit from being with Bill Belichick? Sure. But a great player and a great coach are always going to work hand in hand. I believe that Bill Belichick built up Tom Brady in his image and built him up the best that he could. But Tom Brady also just had some natural goods there that made him a greater fit than a lot of other quarterbacks. All right? Because Tom Brady, one thing that he does have over Aaron Rodgers, you can say that Aaron Rodgers is more talented in as many areas as you want. One thing that Tom Brady is, he is a much better leader than Aaron Rodgers. And when it comes down to the overall, he is much more clutch than Aaron Rodgers. And that's the bottom line. All right?
I think I'll go to Tampa. And the NFL world said, you what? You're going to Tampa Bay, the Succaneers, who have the worst winning percentages of franchise in all of sports for their life.
But what did Pro Football Focus say about their receiving corps?
Okay, but again,
that's what he benefited.
That's fine, Shannon. But let's take a look and overall see what Jameis Winston was able to do on that team. All right, it is what it is. That team. Bottom line is this: that team was not looked at as a great team. Now, I understand overall what Shannon Sharp is saying. But Tom Brady does deserve credit what he's been able to do with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's also keep in mind, though, Tom Brady is not the same quarterback that he used to be. I know that sounds a little bit contradictory and that I'm trying to strip away credit from Aaron Rodgers. But when it comes down to the overall, Tom Brady is 40-some years old. But when it comes down to the overall, we'll have to see what happens. If Aaron Rodgers does defeat Tom Brady, of course he deserves somewhat of credit for that. But when it comes down to it, this is not a prime Tom Brady. All right, it is what it is.
2 Pro Bowl receivers.
And Aaron Rodgers, of course, is 36, 37 years old. But you can tell that Aaron Rodgers, as of right now, is still at a very good point in his career. A better point in his career than Tom Brady is in his. But anyway.
Last year. But with those 2 Pro Bowl receivers, they went 7-9.
Right.
And as a team, they led the NFL in giveaways and turnovers, right?
Yes.
And they led the NFL in penalties.
Yes.
And Tom said, watch this. And he turned them into one of the more efficient offenses. And guess who has the best turnover differential in all of football as we speak right now? How about the Succaneers? Tom Brady just did that. He went down there, and I keep telling you, it took all year long, but he finally he brought it to a boil right on schedule in December. He turned the Succaneers into the Patriots. He instilled and installed the Patriot way in Tampa Bay. And all of a sudden, they're starting to look Patriot-like as they go up to Lambeau Field to play in, you're kidding, the NFC Championship game? He did that. He's 43 years of age.
I got to say, I definitely was not expecting them to make it that far. I guess I can't say I was overly surprised because I had a feeling the Saints might screw it up, but when it comes down to the overall, the Saints overall were the more talented team. Drew Brees was completely awful in that game. Michael Thomas was nowhere to be found. And a certain amount of other things happened as well. Just too many mistakes by them. But anyway.
And he lifted that franchise. He transformed that franchise from losers into winners. And are they a threat to win this game? You better believe they're a threat to win this game on both sides of the ball. And he taught all those receivers.
Let's also keep in mind that Bruce Arians and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were able to completely outplay the Packers in the regular season. Now, will that happen again? I'm still predicting the Packers to win, because the way that Tampa Bay was able to win is that they had a certain amount of takeaways and they were able to capitalize on the Green Bay Packers' mistakes. Now, it seems like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Bruce Arians overall is very good at being able to do that, But when it comes down to the overall, I just don't see Aaron Rodgers having a bad game in this playoff game like he did in that last game. So I am going with the Green Bay Packers, but we'll see what happens. Would I be shocked if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won? No, I wouldn't be. We'll see what happens.
You are going to have to sacrifice your Pro Bowls, because they got no Pro Bowlers,
Right.
for us to get to the promised land, because the Super Bowl this year is in our building. It's at our stadium. No, it's never happened before that a home team played in a Super Bowl, and I'm sure that was the carrot that Brady dangled in front of all their noses all year long. We could be the first team.
If Tom Brady were to win the Super Bowl this year, I would be completely, thoroughly shocked. I mean, I'll tell you what, I certainly would have never expected that, especially if somehow they were able to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But I just, if Patrick Mahomes returns at decent health at least, I don't see anyone beating the Chiefs. But anyway.
Team ever to do this.
Right.
And they're right on schedule, and they got a shot. Your team is favored, and it should win. But when you step back from this, the only case you can make for Aaron Rodgers is he's the cooler thrower of the football. He's the flashier thrower. I don't think he's the better thrower of the football.
It's not even close.
Hey,
I would say that overall he's more talented of a thrower. But when it comes down to it, just because you're more talented, does that mean that you're the greater player? No.
It is, because it's not close, because Brady's a better thrower of the football.
Not a better
He throws a much more catchable pass. I think he's more accurate than Aaron Rodgers.
That's not what the numbers say, Skip.
He throws the prettiest pass I have ever seen, and he just keeps throwing it, and he has lost nothing at 40. He is 43 going on 23.
He is 43, Skip, and he had an unbelievable season. He played better than I thought he would. The guy...
He did too, but Bruce Arians overall does have a history of upgrading quarterbacks' play. And it is what it is. He gets the best out of his quarterbacks, excuse me. So, Tom Brady, I definitely do think now, once again, you do have to give Tom Brady a certain amount of credit, because take a look at Jameis Winston last year. That was an absolute travesty. Now, of course, Jameis Winston is, pretty damn bad for a starting quarterback, at least with how he turns over the ball. So maybe had another quarterback been on the team, maybe they could also led him to an 11-5 record. But Tom Brady's numbers were pretty damn good this year. But once again, he is not the same quarterback that he used to be. So it is what it is. I know that sounds contradictory, but keep in mind, once again, Tom Brady is 43 years old. And when you just watch the games, Tom Brady is just not able to throw the ball the same way that he used to be able to. He has not been the same for the past couple of years, maybe even 3 years.
Has bought into it. Mike Evans had to sacrifice. Goodwin had to sacrifice. There are a lot of sacrifices that need to be made in order for you to be a championship team. But that's not to take anything down. I want people to understand, just because you sacrifice, that doesn't mean you can't be a Pro Bowl receiver and make it to the Super Bowl. Okay. This notion that you can't be that. Jerry went every year that every team he ever played on, he went to the Super Bowl. And he sacrificed nothing. Michael Irvin went every year they won the Super Bowl, he was in the Pro Bowl. So that doesn't necessarily mean you have to sacrifice. But you also have to understand is that sometimes we're going to have to run the ball, sometimes we have to throw it to someone else, and you have to be willing to understand that. So I get your point on that side.
But I get your point on Aaron is just cooler. Tom is not cool. You go crazy. It like turns your stomach to see some of his social posts because they're...
I agree. Aaron Rodgers is almost the Anthony Davis of the league, at least in some sort of way. More like the LeBron James, because at least Aaron Rodgers will lead you to the playoffs, and he has had a certain amount of playoff success. But Anthony Davis was in a very similar light, where they always put this dude in the top 5, and they always said that he was above James Harden and Steph Curry and Giannis, because look at what he can do with the basketball. But what did he ever lead his team to? Jack shit. So it is what it is.
Lame.
Once again, Aaron Rodgers, of course, is greater than someone of an Anthony Davis, so some of you may not find that to be the greatest comparison, and I understand that. He's more along similar lines of LeBron James, except LeBron James is greater for his sport. But it is what it is.
They're nerdy. They're beneath his dignity. You're like, who's that? You can't be a franchise quarterback. You can't make a case you're the GOAT when you post the way you post those silly things on social media.
Yeah, when you look at it, the guy he's the only quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, with 40 touchdown passing season, and he's never had double-digit interceptions in those seasons. Skip,
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
Okay, well, here's what's ridiculous to me. Aaron Rodgers has made it to 4 championship games,
Yes.
obviously all NFC since he's been in.
You know, Shannon, that's great. Russell Wilson actually has done a very similar thing, and I've always said this. Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, in terms of greatness, they're actually closer to each other than what Aaron Rodgers is to Tom Brady. All right, it is what it is. That being said, when we take a look at Russell Wilson, I can sit here and argue that, well, you know what? Russell Wilson is the better overall player than Tom Brady, because if you want to talk about talent, yeah, Russell Wilson in certain areas certainly is more talented than Tom Brady. Take a look at his postseason success. Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers have both been known to fall up short in the postseason compared to someone like a Tom Brady. It just is what it is. And Russell Wilson is going to go down as one of the all-time great quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is along those same lines as a Steve Young. He's in that same category overall as an Aaron Rodgers. Now, would I put Aaron Rodgers above both of those guys? Yeah, probably. But when it comes down to the overall, you know, they're all in that same category. So anywhere from 8 to 12. Anyway.
Green Bay.
Yes.
And go look at his QBRs in those 4 games. He won 1 out of 4.
Mm-hmm.
1 out of 4? Wow. So in those 4 games, the only one he won was when Jay Cutler got stuck on the bicycle because he had, some sort of knee injury. I'm still not sure what it was, but it was badly sprained. I think it was like a grade 1 sprain. Mm-hmm. And he wound up the whole second half at Chicago because they had the home play, the NFC Championship game, riding the bike in the second half as Caleb Haney replaced him. And Aaron Rodgers almost coughed up that one, but managed to survive. And if you look at his QBRs for the 4 games, the next one was at Seattle. All of them have been on the road, obviously. At Seattle, at Atlanta, and then last year at San Francisco. His average QBR for those 4 games has been 58.
Yeah.
That's just a
Great statistic, Skip. Great statistic.
little above average because he's been mostly average in those games, and he's 1 and 3 in those games.
But if you look at his defense has been below average in those games. You look at the games that
Yeah, but once again, Shannon, not every single time. There are certain times overall where his defense was not the worst, and he lost to Eli Manning when they were 15-1 overall. When the Green Bay Packers were 15-1, he lost to Eli Manning that year. Now, of course, so did Tom Brady. But if Aaron Rodgers overall, allegedly, according to a certain amount of people, is so much more impactful than Tom Brady or somewhere in the same category, then he should have won that game. It is what it is. But even let's say if they're in the same category, it wouldn't be fair to criticize Aaron Rodgers and me not criticize Tom Brady. But the problem is that people are acting, they're putting Aaron Rodgers on this level to where he's just so much more impactful than everybody else. Once again, it has been proven repeatedly that Aaron Rodgers overall is nowhere near as impactful as many people try to make him out to be. It is what it is. You can take a look at the numbers. Also, you know what else is another great statistic? Aaron Rodgers almost has about an even record when it comes to away games. Like before this season, I believe he had more losses at away games than he had wins. All right? Aaron Rodgers is nowhere near as impactful as people try to make him out to be. Never has been.
he's lost. You look at last year, San Francisco, how many points did the defense give up? If you look at the year they lost to Atlanta, how many points did his defense?
Let's also bring up the fact that Aaron Rodgers had 2 to 3 interceptions, I believe, last year against the San Francisco 49ers. So how many points did they also get against turnovers, Shannon? But anyway, or off of turnovers, excuse me.
Give up. Granted, Aaron Rodgers could have played a lot better in some of those ball games.
Last year at San Francisco, he had a QBR of 23 because he coughed it up.
Exactly. Thank you, Skip. So Skip is right on this segment. Mostly, at least.
Twice on interceptions, once on a lost fumble.
Yeah, I mean, you see what happened when Brady's defense give up 30 points? They lose Super Bowls.
So Tom Brady in championship games, obviously in the AFC, is 9-4.
Yeah, but Brady's defense actually, like when you take a look at the Eagles, a certain amount actually was because the defense gave it up. And listen, even if your defense does give it up to me, that's not a great enough excuse. I'm sorry. We still have to count who wins. It is what it is. But when it comes down to the overall, Aaron Rodgers lost because he turned over the ball a certain amount of times. All right? Now, there has been some games where Tom Brady has also turned the ball over a certain amount of times and they still ended up winning. But that's because Tom Brady overall usually can get back on that horse even if he gets bucked off. And overall, he just performs a decent amount better. Aaron Rodgers at certain times is a little bit of a rhythm player to where if he's off, it's very hard for him to get back on and come at the end of that game and come back and win it, especially against a very decent team. I've seen Brady have multiple interceptions in the game and him being able to do very good in the big moments later on down the game. A good game, for example, would be the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe, back in 2019. But anyway.
If you just look at their overall playoff records, Aaron has that one road run to a Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
Won it with 4 straight wins, 3 on the road, 1 neutral site.
Right.
And including that, he's 11-8 in the playoffs. 11-8. Tom is 32-11 in the playoffs.
But let me ask you a question, Skip. Prior to this,
You know, certain people overall, when they take a look at Tom Brady versus Joe Montana or Peyton Manning versus Joe Montana, they love to shit all over Joe Montana because, Joe Montana never had a 4,000 passing yard season and Tom Brady's been to 30-some playoff games. Well, that's really mainly because Tom Brady has played more than Joe Montana. He's just played more often. Let's keep in mind that Tom Brady is in a generation to where they're much more easier on the quarterback. You know, they've had certain rules to protect the quarterback in this day and age. They did not have those type of rules back then in Joe Montana's time, so he did not last as long as Tom Brady did. Let's keep that in mind. But when it comes down to the overall bottom line is this. All right, Joe Montana was the greatest statistical quarterback of his day. He did not always have, these fantastical 4,000 passing yard seasons. In fact, I don't think he ever had a 4,000 passing yard season. But when you take a look at him compared to John Elway, compared to Dan Marino, compared to Warren Moon, compared to Troy Aikman, certain other quarterbacks that played around during his era, take a look at his QBR, take a look overall at his quarterback rating, take a look at his passer rating, take a look at his completion percentage compared to everybody else, and take a look at how many times he won. Joe Montana was a fantastic statistical quarterback for his day. And let's also keep in mind that Joe Montana for his day, because that was not a time overall to where you would usually see a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Joe Montana had a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. All right? Joe Montana, once again, a lot of people don't really know how great he was. But it is what it is.
This year, how many road playoff wins did Tom Brady had of those 32?
Okay, fair enough. But since that...
Let's talk about how many road wins Aaron Rodgers has had. Even during the regular season, Aaron Rodgers has been proven to be a horrible road game quarterback. Anyway.
Super Bowl run, Aaron Rodgers is 7-7 in the postseason.
Right.
32-11. Again, he won a lot of games in the AFC East, so it gave him a lot more home games. But that's a 74% winning percentage.
Yeah.
He's won 74% of his playoff games, while Aaron has won 58% of his playoff games. And you can talk defense all you want to me, that Tom had the better defense, Tom had the better defense.
Did he not?
Did Tom have the better supporting cast on offense? Because
there's been certain times overall where Tom Brady has not had these elite defenses, Shannon. In fact, there's been certain times in the beginning of the part of the season, or even the whole season, they were looked at as not that great defensively, but Tom Brady still led them to the Super Bowl. Once again, there's this myth that's been going around for a while that has never been true, that Aaron Rodgers is just so much more impactful than everybody else, and if he even has an average defense, he can lead them to the Super Bowl. These people have no idea what the hell they're talking about. The only year Aaron Rodgers ever went to the Super Bowl is when he had the second best defense in the whole entire league. These people have no idea what the hell they're talking about. And that team overall had like 8 Pro Bowlers on it. Mainly they were on defense. He also had a very good receiver in Greg Jennings. So a certain amount of people overall that say Aaron Rodgers, basically did everything by himself. The same shit people love to say about LeBron James. Sorry, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Anyway.
I think you're seeing Bill Belichick get exposed right on schedule. It's what I've been trying to tell you for 5 years on this show.
So if you don't mind me asking, Skip, if you're saying defense doesn't really matter, why do you...
No, I'll give you slight edges on defense, although over the last 3 or 4 years, that has started to decline.
Let me ask you a question. The greatest passing performance in postseason history, who has that?
Oh,
Tom
Brady
Brady, right?
does.
And why didn't he win that game?
because Belichick's defense gave up 41 points to the backup quarterback.
Thank you. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's why I said in the last 4 years, that started to go way south.
Yeah.
Because in that game, Belichick inexplicably, mysteriously didn't play Malcolm Butler the whole game, who had played the most snaps of any player on his defense, and I still don't know what happened, and I think Tom Brady will never forgive or forget that one.
Well, I think Aaron Rodgers' defense gave up 40 points to Atlanta in that championship game.
Okay.
Skip, this is what Aaron Rodgers, and you mentioned it, he's talked about this basically.
And there are certain games where his defense did give up a certain amount of points. There's also certain games where Aaron Rodgers did not show up as big as he needed to, like last year against the San Francisco 49ers. All right, that was not a good game by Aaron Rodgers. But anyway.
From the beginning of the season, Aaron Rodgers believes that had I had more.
Let's also not forget, I believe the NFC Championship between the Seattle Seahawks and Green Bay Packers. I think that was the 2015 NFC Championship. All right, that was a very close game later on down the line, and the Packers completely fell flat in the second half of that game, and they had many opportunities because Russell Wilson was terrible in that game, but they lost. So many people overall argue that, well, it went to overtime. The Green Bay Packers didn't even overall, get to go to overtime. Well, if Aaron Rodgers is so much more impactful than everybody else, why did that game even need to go to overtime? You had so much time. That game was like what? The Green Bay Packers had 19 points that whole entire, game, or 20-something points that whole entire game. Anyway.
8 NFC Championship games at Lambeau.
The Seahawks were completely lethargic that first half of the game. You were supposed to win that game with how, ahead you were. But anyway.
I would have more appearances than the Super Bowl. So now this is his opportunity. This is what he's talked about. Tom Brady got out of New England, says, I do not have the weapons. I do not have the people around me to get to and compete for Super Bowls. That's all I'm judged by. That's all I care to play. I don't care about stats. I don't care about 500-600 passing touchdowns. I don't care about 80,000 passing yards. Super Bowls is what drives this man. And he realized he did not have the talent. Coach Belichick could no longer shop for the grocery and give him a menu that could go out there and he would like. Okay. So he's like, I'm loading up, like Jan Clamper did, Skip. He loaded up the truck and moved to Beverly Hills. He loaded up the truck and headed south. And he landed in Tampa. So there's a lot of pressure on Tom Brady as Aaron Rodgers because Tom Brady left Coach Belichick for one reason. It wasn't just to get away. It was to get away and win, to show I can win without you.
Okay, but Belichick clearly wanted to show I can win without him.
Yeah.
Right?
They wanted to show they.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
So I got that. But this is the only way I will ever compare Bill Belichick to Michael Jeffrey Jordan. They're similar in team building because Michael Jordan, I hate to even have to talk about this, but I always do, as a GM in Charlotte, he's proving to be the worst in the history of the league. They are...
Well, he certainly overall has not proven to be an elite GM.
Yes.
In team building.
I thought you were going to say they were the same in ruthlessness.
No, well, I'll give you that.
Because they are pretty callous, Skip.
All right, but Belichick is getting more and more exposed as a team builder because he did give Tom Randy Moss for a minute.
Right.
He had him for a minute.
Right.
It was really just the 2007 run because then Randy started to unravel right after that.
Right.
So I will give you that one. But after that, you start comparing help on offense. Well, look who Aaron...
I agree. When it comes down to Aaron Rodgers at one point in time had a very good, talented offense. You can argue that they had the same amount of talent. You can argue at one point in time overall that actually they had the same amount of talent on offense and defense. Like, people are trying to act like Tom Brady overall, it was just working with these amazing A-class defenses. No, he wasn't. It is what it is. All right? It's whatever. And when you take a look at it, Tom Brady did have Gronkowski for a certain amount of years within the past several years. But Aaron Rodgers also had Randall Cobb. He also had Jordy Nelson, and now he has Devontae Adams. So Aaron Rodgers has had a certain amount of help as well. So it is what it is.
These are Pro Bowl receivers starting with our man Greg Jennings.
And Julian Edelman also was on the Patriots, but Julian Edelman, he's not a Hall of Famer. Now, of course, Jordy Nelson overall is not a Hall of Famer either. And Randall Cobb, of course, is not a Hall of Famer, but the reason why I bring that up is because many people always try to allege that Julian Edelman overall is this Hall of Fame caliber receiver. No, Julian Edelman was never this Hall of Fame caliber receiver. He was a very good, very speedy receiver. He was never an A-class receiver. Never. Okay? It is what it is.
and Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson and obviously Devontae over the last 4 years.
Skip, the thing that Coach Belichick, the reason why Coach Belichick doesn't get more criticism for his team building, because what? He hit on Brady, he hit on Gronk.
Okay.
And you see what came out of that. You're talking about 6 So, Skip, I don't care what else happened.
Did he hit on Brady or luck into Brady in the 6th round? Do you think it was because of him? Was it his call? They say one of the scouts pushed for Tom
Right.
Brady.
Skip, the way I look at it, I don't know if you play this, but I think the Powerball is about $850 million. Whether I pick the numbers that it gives me to give it.
Well, that's overall what Shannon just said. So he lucked out on Brady. So Shannon just admitted overall that he must have seen something in Brady. Now, whether you believe overall Bill Belichick did that or overall built him, so what Shannon is admitting is that Tom Brady overall was not just completely built up by Belichick, that he also must have naturally just some of the goods, which I agree. But anyway.
To me by quick pick. If I get all 6 of those numbers, I'm going to pick that check up.
Okay.
So
And
Coach Belichick is
he
saying...
got all 6 of the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
He did. He got all 6. And that man not only became the greatest quarterback to me, but he became the greatest leader. And he was able to rise above Belichick and allow Belichick.
And Tom Brady is certainly in the conversation for greatest football player of all time. Not even just greatest quarterback of all time, football player of all time. Because a certain amount of people, of course, a certain amount of people, I guess, would say that he is in that conversation. I hear a certain amount of people overall say that, he's not in that conversation. No, Tom Brady's in that conversation. I hear a certain amount of people overall say that Jerry Rice is in that conversation, which I would agree. In my opinion, Jerry Rice is in that conversation. Joe Montana's in that conversation. Tom Brady's in that conversation. Lawrence Taylor's in that conversation. And maybe, Jim Brown. But besides that, I don't have anyone else in that conversation.
To be completely, to me, out of control as a head coach because he got to coach however he wanted.
Right.
If it was his way or the highway, and if he didn't like your act, he sent you packing because he could get away with it because he had the GOAT quarterback.
You're exactly right. Because at one time, if Brady would have ever bucked at anything Coach Belichick said or done, then you'd have had other guys doing it. But Skip, if that guy stays in line, as accomplished as he is, and as financially set as he is, as he stay in line, how can anybody else get out of line? You've heard guys say when they go try to get a contract with Coach Belichick, and the first thing he said, well, Brady makes this. We can't pay you more than Brady.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So if Brady would have said, I need $30 million to stay, then everybody else's salaries could have gone up.
Okay, but he didn't.
He did not.
Okay, so I'm back to my only point that I give you. If you want to talk about box office appeal, Aaron's got it because even I'm fascinated watching him because to me, from what I know about this game and about playing that position, he has the worst footwork of any quarterback I've ever watched, and it does not matter. It actually adds to his mystique because everything is off balance. It's like...
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
The release is so quick, but the footwork is horrendously bad. Nobody would teach it or coach it or allow it, except his arm talent is so supreme that he gets away with it. But in leadership, which is about, I'm going to say a third of that position because it is the leadership position to me in all of sports, I will take Brady 100 times over 100.
I agree.
Aaron Rodgers.
I think this Aaron Rodgers over the last couple of years in leadership compared to the old Aaron Rodgers are totally different. And you're probably right.
I'm not sure about that. Aaron Rodgers has found a certain amount of scapegoats like Mike McCarthy and a certain amount of other ones. I've heard Aaron Rodgers bitch and complain overall that he has not had enough help. It's like LeBron James. But anyway, but when it comes down to the overall, I don't know about that. But overall, Tom Brady is a much better leader than Aaron Rodgers ever was. That's just the bottom line.
Hey, Skip. I just think the thing is now, I see a different Aaron Rodgers in terms of leadership.
Maybe he got a little humbled by two things. There was that huge Bleacher Report bombshell about his lack of leadership and how he was called out internally by the people at the top.
Right.
And that he was even cut out of the hiring process for Matt LaFleur, that he was informed over the phone, hey, we have gone this direction.
Right.
And the quote was in the piece, which was denied at the top, but it was, don't you be the problem going forward.
And what would he do, Skip? If somebody made a mistake, he would show them up. I see less of that now. That's something that the other guys, wouldn't, you know.
Yeah, that.
I see less of that now, Skip. I don't see that anymore.
All right, I'll buy that. I think he has realized that as he gets into his middle 30s and he's starting to think about 40, that all that really matters anymore is what has always mattered to the guy up in Foxborough, which is you got to figure out how to go.
This is why I say Aaron Rodgers and LeBron James are very similar. You notice something very similar about both Aaron Rodgers and LeBron James, and you know something very similar about their fan bases. They're both stat geeks when it comes down to it. And on top of that, Aaron Rodgers and LeBron James, you know, whenever people are going to be talking about them as the greatest of all time, it's never going to be impact. It's never going to be over. Well, they think it's impact, but impact also has to include winning and championships. It's never going to be championships. It's never going to be winning. It's always going to be, take a look at his touchdown to interception ratio. Take a look at how many triple-doubles LeBron James was able to average. All right? But it is what it is. You know, LeBron James never had a good enough team. He never had this. He never had this. He never had the coaches. Aaron Rodgers never had the coaches. He never had the talent that Tom Brady had. It's always going to be someone else's fault. That's one thing you notice about both Aaron Rodgers and LeBron James. Very similar. They're both really two peas in the same pod. It is what it is.
Win another Super Bowl.
See, the thing that happened to Brady, Skip, that doesn't happen to most, it happened to Mahomes, is that when you have that type of success.
If Mahomes keeps going on championship runs, because I favored the Chiefs early at the beginning of the year to win the Super Bowl again this year, Patrick Mahomes looks different, man. You know, my friend overall who's a Green Bay Packers fan, and we always talk about sports, he says, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to blow it and all this sort of stuff. Patrick Mahomes looks different. Like, he looks like a better version of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers might have a little bit more of a talented, accurate arm. But the difference between Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers is that Patrick Mahomes, overall, in my opinion, is just better in the postseason than what Aaron Rodgers is. It is what it is.
Yes, sir.
But, of course, that's a small sample size, so we'll see if Patrick Mahomes can do that consistently.
Really. You see, Rodgers had to wait a minute. First of all, he had to sit the bench for 3 years, and then it took him another 3 years to win the championship. Well, when you have the success that Brady had so early, only thing else matters. So what else is there, Skip? You've already climbed Kilimanjaro and Everest. In your first 4 years, you had 3 Super Bowls. So what the hell else is there to play for? Ain't no Pro Bowl, no All-Pro better than that.
You could play for stats. You could try to put up big numbers. You could try to throw 1 million touchdown passes and make your record unbreakable.
But here's the thing.
He doesn't care about that.
But he knows that the way they changed the game, the guys who Skip, you see guys that would have never thrown for 25 touchdowns in a season, throwing for 35, 40 touchdowns in a season. So he's like, the record that I know will be unbreakable, let me get 6, 7, 8, 9 of these things. Go get that.
Go get that. So what he did in the end was, after Randy Moss, he was stuck with what I used to tell you. It's like he went out before every game and pointed up in the stands, you 3 guys from Dorchester, just come on down here, and you'll be my receivers, because it was a lot of Edelmans and Amendolas and Hogans.
Yes.
And he won Super Bowls with those guys for a while until he finally said, you know what? Now that I am free, I'm 43, I think I'll go pick those 2 guys who made the Pro Bowl. And I'll see if Gronk will come out of retirement, come with me, because he's made a bunch of Pro Bowls. And Cameron Brayton is pretty good, right?
Yes.
And all of a sudden,
very good route running.
You talk Antonio. We don't know if Antonio's going to be able to play this time, but he's obviously a big-time receiver. You come on down.
Skip, maybe the only difference between Tom Brady 3, 4 years ago than now is that he needs a little more help to get the job done. Now,
I would agree, because Tom Brady is not the same quarterback that he used to be.
he just can't take those guys, as you say, from Dorchester. He can't take those guys and make them championship contender. He needs a Mike Evans. He needs a Godwin. He needs a Cameron Brate, where he was taking. Hell, I can't even name a lot of the tight ends in his early years in the Super Bowl. I think he had Daniel Graham, and he had
Christian Fourier,
and he dude went to Duke. He had slipped my name. Ben Watson.
Yeah.
He had Ben Watson.
Well, he had him last year.
Yeah,
he had him at 39.
And I think his first Super Bowl, I think he had Andrew Wiggins. I don't know if people remember him, but Skip, he's done it with lesser tier. But as you age, you need more help. So he got that in.
So I'm glad that Shannon Sharp said that. So for all these Aaron Rodgers dick riders and all these Aaron Rodgers fanboys that claim, oh, Tom Brady's just had this much more help. No, he hasn't. All right? There's been certain seasons where the Patriots have been a certain amount better than the Packers, there's also been seasons where Tom Brady led them to the Super Bowl to where they did have comparable talent. All right? Anyway.
He knew, Skip, we would not be talking about Tom Brady today had he stayed in New England.
He is the ageless wonder. And I think he has slammed shut his GOAT case by what he just did in Tampa Bay.
If he had gotten New England, that roster, to the AFC Championship game, that would have been his crown of achievement, Skip. With that roster, with them tight ends, like you said, you can't even what's it,
Matt Lacoste. Ryan Izzo.
The only Lacoste I know is Renee Lacoste, the Izod shirt. That's the only Lacoste I know, Skip.
Except that's STE. This is SS.
Okay. So,
yes, thank you.
No.
Thank you for watching. You can.
Anyways, that's really about it. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'll talk to y'all later. We'll see what Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady do this weekend. Aaron Rodgers, if he's ever going to want to be included in that top 5 QBs of all time conversation, he's going to have to win the Super Bowl this year. So we'll see what happens. But that's really about it for now. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'll talk to y'all later.